instead of thinking about things in terms of months, think of things in terms of decades, or at least in years. And that's the advice that Travis gave about creating a podcast. You're not going to create a successful podcast, YouTube channel, thought leadership platform in a month, in 2 months, maybe not even 6 months. It's going to take years to grow an audience. And he was saying that his number one tip for people who want to start a podcast, start a YouTube channel, is to upfront realize that it's a 5 to 10 year play, and not something that's going to be something that you're going to get, $1 million or 1 million viewers in 6 months. And so just kind of reinforcing that. And there's something they said very interesting was take time now to save time later. So invest that, 5 years into 2 years, 3 years, 5 years into creating your podcast. Once the ball's rolling on that, then it's kind of like I'm making a graphical with my finger. It's going to shoot up. It's going to be very slow at first, but then once you get into that point where the ball is rolling, you've built up momentum, the results you get, either viewers or sponsorships, investors, whatever your goal of the podcast is going to increase. I guess the term is exponentially. There, I couldn't think of it. Exponentially once you've put in the time, but it's not something that's a gradual increase. It's going to be slow at first and then shoot up. So it's really good to hear that be reinforced by someone who's actually got a pretty popular podcast.
Yep. Yeah, I wholeheartedly agree. Sound business advice.
And one other quick thing about the podcast too that was interesting, because a lot of people are probably thinking when they're starting a podcast, well, Joe Fairless is out there making a podcast, so why am I going to make a podcast if he's already there with all of these viewers? Or Tim Ferriss, Tony Robbins, you name it, whoever has a successful podcast right now, why would I do that? So it's kind of coming down to having the imposter syndrome, is what Travis mentioned. And one way to get over that is to understand that Tim Ferriss, Joe Fairless, everyone was at the same point you were at some 5, 6, 10, whatever years ago. But something else is that if you don't think you have enough knowledge in your mind to do a podcast, which probably isn't true, but if that's kind of a roadblock that you have, then just do an interview-based podcast. So interview the experts instead. So rather than it being your expert advice, it's someone else's expert advice. And then something else that Travis talked about, and we've talked about in the podcast before, by doing that, you become an expert. You become perceived as an expert, but you actually become an expert because you're able to curate your own customized education by interviewing the top people in whatever industry you are in.